Dallas Cowboys are, I got a fun fact for you here, guys. Cowboys win total this season. Okay, I asked expectations of your teams this year. We went into the Longhorns last segment. We'll get more into them with their football team. But the football team up in Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys, are expected to win 7.5 games in Vegas. So 7 to 8 games is what that really means and translates to. That is the lowest it's been in over 20 years.
Wow.
Now, that trailer I just played for you are all the teams from over 20 years ago as well when they were winning Super Bowls, right? The evil villain is still running the helm, as he calls himself that, Darth Vader, referring to Jerry Jones. So what are your expectations, Cowboy fans or Cowboy haters, for the Dallas Cowboys this year? Schottenheimer comes in, new head coach. You bring in Eberflus. You have a decent draft. I'll give the guys credit. I think they drafted pretty well this year.
Meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes
Not
draft.
flashy.
Not flashy, but Tyler Booker out of Alabama. You go get the edge out of Boston College. You get a cornerback with high potential, Ravel, who I like. He's lengthy. That's the kid out of East Carolina. You get Jaden Blue in the 5th round, who's a speedster. Can he be a guy that emerges as one of the running backs in this very weak, I'll still call it a weak running back room compared to everybody else, it feels like.
Javonte Williams and...
Not amazing.
Who did they bring in, like Miles Sanders or something?
They brought in
like
Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
Javonte Williams is there. Jaden Blue now is there as well as, like I said, I'm not the most impressed with the running back room. The O-line has to get better because that was an issue. They have to keep up Dak Prescott, but there is a positive there. Dak Prescott's going to come back healthy. He looks like he's in really good shape. I'm not trying to be the... we talk about Moneyball's one of my favorite movies. You know how they would talk about in that scene? What are we doing here? Modeling jeans? Like, he looks good, though. Guy looks in shape. I bring that up because now he's got another wide receiver to throw to that's not named CeeDee Lamb. And that would be George Pickens.
Yeah, it's understood that this is kind of a one-year thing.
100%.
But it could be a big impact. I mean, taking some of that pressure off CeeDee Lamb. I mean, if anybody's seeing two, it's CeeDee Lamb, right? And
Right.
George Pickens is one of the best possession receivers that we have in the league, and him and one-on-ones just over the top as CeeDee Lamb opens things up for you. I mean, I think that's a great pickup. It's just what else is there for Dallas?
Right, that's a good question, right? You got to get guys signed on this team. That's going to be a huge deal for Micah Parsons, getting him signed this offseason. There's defensive holes for sure. The secondary is definitely still somewhat questionable with injuries.
Yeah, with not Stephon, Trayvon Diggs.
Diggs.
Both those Diggs brothers are
dealing
with knee stuff.
Right. Malik Hooker is excited. It came out yesterday that he's working with Eberflus. That's a better position for Eberflus. He's not a head coach. He's a defensive coordinator. That's it, plain and simple. We saw that in Chicago. It didn't work. And he's been on this staff before in Dallas. He's familiar with the territory. So, hey, I honestly, this is one of the first times I'll say it. I think expectations, like I just announced, it's been over 20 years since they've had a 7.5 win total or lower. And this is in new NFL landscape where we have 17 games. So if you think about it from that perspective, you got an additional game thrown in there as well compared to what it's been 20 plus years ago, 10 plus years ago, where it was only 16 games. So Vegas is not the hottest on the Cowboys. Last year, I think their win total was 10.5. Our guy E. Hogan, he took the under and he cashed in on that as they only won 7 games. My question to you is, fans, haters, whatever you are of the Dallas Cowboys, what are the expectations? Is it to make the playoffs, sneak in? I think that probably is your ceiling at this point. We don't know what Schottenheimer is as a head coach. It seems like the guys like him. That's all fine and dandy until we see them on the field, right? You got to coach a team. He's been a coach in the NFL for a long, long time. His dad obviously has too. The osmosis, as Mr. Jones says. I just wonder what your expectations are because Cowboy fans, I've got a decent amount. We all do in our life, and this is first.
This is the least. This is the least this hour year I've ever seen from Cowboys fans.
And to be
optimistic,
100%. And to be fair, they had won a lot of football games the years prior. This was the year we see the big injury of Dak Prescott. They don't have a good year. The division is getting better, and a new team wins the division every year since what was it? Is it 2004? Is that right? In the NFC East,
it goes back a ways.
Who's going to win it? Because Philadelphia won it this year, and they look like the best team in football. Is that going to go away this year, or is Washington going to be still better than y'all? I do think they have the advantage over the Giants still, but is this team third in the NFC East? Let's start off there.
I think it is, and I don't necessarily think that means you're a bad team.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair enough.
We saw a third team from a division make the playoffs last season with the Denver Broncos out of the AFC West. So I think it's very doable.
And the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I think Dallas Cowboys fans are never going to forgive Dak Prescott for 2023. I think it's just they've decided that he's not somebody that they like. But I think Dak Prescott is legitimately an excellent quarterback. I think he is anywhere from the 13th to 7th best quarterback in the NFL. Is he overpaid? Absolutely. But
Sure.
That's the way it goes. And, the next guy after him is going to overtake his contract, I'm sure. I'm sure whatever,
Still
Jaden
the highest
Daniels
paid player in football.
CJ Stroud, whatever they might sign, will probably eclipse Dak Prescott. But I think he's a good player, and I think George Pickens adds a lot in terms of just the offense for them. With Dallas, you said it's 7.5?
7.5 wins.
Win total. I think what my expectation would be and what a successful season would be to sign Micah Parsons
Sure.
or, I guess, trade Micah Parsons, get out of this.
Yeah,
whatever the situation is.
He is participating. We've seen that.
Yeah, so I think
He's a
that they
team
feel
guy.
good about him, maybe eventually inking a deal. But I think it would just be getting back to, they won 7 games last year, and Dak Prescott, how many games did he play? I know Cooper Rush was playing quarterback for them for most of the
Probably
season.
played about 7 games, I'd say.
So 7 and 10, I think that Dallas could very possibly get to 9 wins. I just think a successful season would be seeing what you get out of Brian Schottenheimer, because I think this defense is going to struggle just by virtue of so many guys are out. Like DeMarvion Overshown's probably not playing this year. Trayvon Diggs just had surgery.
Yeah, he went out actually. Apparently, it was 12 games. He went out in game 12, so
Okay.
he played a decent amount of football. They weren't playing great, but yeah. Listen, I think the George Pickens edition is the one thing I'm going to look at and go, okay, this is a glimmer of hope. You have the highest paid player in football. That's Dak Prescott, who, listen, when he's at his best and he's healthy, he is a top 10 quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's debatable. Statistically, that's proven. Now, when it comes to the playoffs, you want to see more out of the guy, but you got to get to the playoffs. If that's your expectation that this is a playoff team, I think that's high for the Dallas Cowboys. And so does Vegas. You're not getting into the playoffs. I don't believe in this NFC, even though it's maybe not as strong as the AFC is when it comes to top-heavy teams, with 8 wins. Maybe 9. 9 could probably get you in. I think 10 for sure would get you in. In this division, I don't feel confident that they're better than Washington. Now, we could see a sophomore slump, kind of like what we saw with the, it happens all the time. There's examples of it. But last year was the Houston Texans. They were a team who was picking 2nd overall, just like the Washington Commanders the year prior. They end up getting C.J. Stroud, their quarterback of the future. They end up exceeding expectations and going out and winning the division. And they win a playoff game first year. Washington won 2 playoff games and got themselves to the NFC Championship with Jaden Daniels. It's a very similar story. A team that flew under the radar, people didn't really fully believe in, got their new quarterback, and here they are, right? I bring that up because I think Washington could take a little bit of a step back, but they won 12 games last year in the NFC Championship. I don't think that Dallas has a roster that's better than Washington's at this point. Maybe you have better stars, sure, but what I've seen from Jaden Daniels is this kid's electric.
Yeah.
He's one of the top 10 quarterbacks already in this league.
CeeDee Lamb is better than Terry McLaurin. But,
right. Yeah, but then they just add
Micah
Deebo
Parsons is
Samuel,
better
and
than
someone might say, oh, he's fat. Deebo's fat. Well, he's got some time to lose that weight, and I still think he's a pretty good receiver. So, I mean, we'll see. I think that's the team you're chasing right now. I don't think Philly's obtainable to chase. I think that's the best team in football, and that's why.
Yeah. You mentioned it. The Philly won the NFC East from 2001 to 2004.
Yeah.
What, Donovan McNabb?
Right.
And that was the last time somebody repeated in that division.
Sure.
I think this is a very strong candidate for a curse breaker. I think Philly, it's if health, I don't think there's a chance that Washington gets past them. Because I just think it's going to be another year it's going to be a step back year for Washington. Not a huge step back. I think they're still a playoff team.
Right.
But 12-5 in an NFC Championship, I think that there's other teams that'll be right there with them.
I'll go to glass half full here for the Dallas Cowboys. I think if you're a fan, I would take the over this year. I would.
I think they're better than they were last year.
I do too.
And just in terms of that season was never, with how Jerry Jones dragged everything through the offseason because he was upset.
Goodness.
And I see why.
The draft wasn't very impressive either.
Green Bay game was unforgivable for
Jerry
Dallas.
was in his feelings.
So I think last year was just kind of always just I hate to say vibes, but the vibes were terrible last season, and I think they're a lot better this year. Going back, you can listen to our show and go back and find podcast descriptions. Everybody hated this coaching hire.
Yeah.
Everybody hated Brian Schottenheimer. We talked about the osmosis. We talked about how it was safe and how he's just a puppet for Jerry Jones, and all of that might be true, but I think we've all liked what we've seen from him. And I know winning press conference is one thing, but for you Dallas Cowboys fans and you Longhorn fans, do that combo. Were you ever that inspired by Tom Herman at the podium?
No.
Tom winning his hard Herman?
No, I was not.
I just think there's more to be inspired by for Dallas, just in the sense that, making smart decisions and moving in the right direction. Because as good as Dallas has drafted, and you just brought this up, over the last few years, the last, 23 and 24 were not the best drafts for the Dallas Cowboys.
No, they were not.
I think we liked Tyler Booker. I think that's a good pick. I liked their draft this year. Again, nothing crazy flashy. You didn't, go get your Tet McMillan, but you got your George Pickens.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to add an explosiveness factor where it's
a contract year for the
you
kid.
can play a little bit of college football where Dak Prescott can just sort of lob it up to the big guy who's just, bigger than the Sunbelt corner that's defending him. Obviously, it's the NFL. It's not going to be that simple, but I think George Pickens as a number 2 can absolutely light it up. Because we always hear George Pickens as like this fantasy guy or this number 1 option on a playoff team, but
who's his quarterback, Ben?
And I just think that we've seen a lot more games of 2 catches for 18 yards than 8 catches for 95 yards.
And he was asked to be the wide receiver 1 at Pittsburgh, which they didn't win off that. And he's wide receiver 2 here in Dallas, where Dak
facing
Prescott
a ton of single coverage for 100%. George Pickens. I think it's a perfect fit for him, and I think he's going to. Even if Dallas wanted to bring him back, I think he's going to price him out of. I think some other team is going to throw a lot more money at him than Dallas can afford to pay him next year.
I think
that's
also
fine. That's the plan.
With him, the questions because of what he is, on the field and off the field. He's disruptive. I mean, he is a rambunctious, is the word to use.
He's an odd fella.
He's a personality for
he's
sure.
A crash out guy.
That could work in your favor though in Dallas, where you have, as we just played that trailer, some of the bigger personalities in football, and it works right in Dallas. I think CeeDee Lamb as a guy who's similar age as him. I believe they're both 26, 25, whatever they are. They're both about the same age. Kind of bringing him under the wing, setting the tone. Hey, this is how you be a top receiver in this league. I don't think that's going to hurt. I like the George Pickens pickup. I do a lot. I think it was a very smart move for Dallas. I think it's worth it while you're paying Dak Prescott the most money in the NFL. And I think this team will exceed the expectations of Dallas, of Vegas, I should say, which is 7.5. I think this is an 8-9 win team. I'll take the over. Okay, I'm putting some faith into Schottenheimer, but they have guys on this roster that are good. I think the national media I've been hearing is just kind of letting Dallas wander down there, which we usually don't see. Usually it's them talking a lot about the Cowboys. This offseason, I haven't heard much. Now, that's probably going to change once the games start rolling, but we haven't heard much
I also think
about
that is
the Cowboys.
Basically the perfect
it's a good
scenario.
spot to be in.
Like, you're not, Mike McCarthy's dangling, Dan Quinn is dangling.
Well, you won 13, 12 games again, and you lost in the playoffs. We're not talking about that in the summer of this offseason. We're not even talking about y'all. We're talking about Philly. We're talking about Washington.
So it was Zimmer last year, right? Is that who it was last year?
Yes.
We signed him to a one-year deal.
Zimmer.
Dan Quinn was a couple years before.
Right.
Sorry about that.
No,
But
you're good.
I was making sure I got the correct information.
No, Zimmer was last year.
But I think
they'd bring in Eberflus.
Yeah. Noah, you and I are people that pretty much only remember the events of the 21st century.
Sure.
But this is the first time that I can recall that the Dallas Cowboys are flying under the radar.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like we just read off here, it's been over 20 years since they've had this. Now, granted, I think the win total is probably set at the right spot. I think maybe 8.5 would be probably closer, but their schedule's not easy. But there's winnable games on this team. I don't think this is a below average team in the NFL, even with the holes they have. Now, the run game is in question, but Dak Prescott, when healthy, is a good quarterback. You have that's one of the better duos of wide receivers in my eyes. If George Pickens can just play his game and open up CeeDee Lamb, because CeeDee Lamb's a top 3 receiver in this league. Probably the 3rd if you want to take the 2 LSU guys.
No, it is tough just for Dallas because you're looking around the league and you're like, well, the team in our state just signed Nick Chubb for $2.5 million.
Yeah, you hate to see that. You do. We don't get what's going on there.
Nick Chubb might be fully washed. Who knows? But
he could. Let's give Javonte Williams a chance. Miles Sanders, I'm not putting a lot of stock in. I hope the best for Jaden Blue. I don't really understand what they're doing in the running back room, but maybe they're not going to run as much as we think, and maybe they're going to throw the ball more. But Schottenheimer's come out and said they want to run the football, so I don't know.
Yeah, saying that you want to be a running team when you were this like ill-equipped, like it's something you didn't totally invest in. And so, I mean, obviously, I think they had bigger needs in the trenches and in bigger positions like that, like on the edge and offensive tackle, bringing in Tyler Booker, but Javonte Williams does not inspire much confidence. And I like Jaden Blue a lot. I mean, I like any of my Texas guys, but we kind of saw him as the lead running back. He lost the job.
Yeah.
He's lightning. He needs some thunder to his lightning. And maybe that's, I don't know, but
I'm going over
think it's
7.5
Javonte
wins.
Williams.
I think they're a better team, and with healthy Dak Prescott, this team's going to win you at least 8 games. They won 7 last year. Let's not forget that. So, Dallas Cowboys, what's your expectation? We'll be talking more about them as the hours go on in our show today. But I listen, I'm not trying to pump the tires of Cowboy fans here, but I think your ceiling would be a wild card playoff team. I can't say anything more than that. This team's not winning the division unless something crazy happens to both the quarterbacks or Saquon Barkley again. I'm knocking on wood. You never want to see injuries like that.
But they're part of the game.
It's just this team is not to Philadelphia standard yet. But who is?
I think the point is this is the first time, A, that I said the Dallas Cowboys are flying under the radar, but B, the outside looking in perspective is more positive than the fan base perspective. Dallas Cowboys fans know. I mean, it's a meme online at this point. Is Cowboys fans are the kings of this is our year. They're going to do it. How about them boys? And for the first time, I feel like Cowboys fans are saying absolutely not. I'm not talking myself into this. Where
majority, there's still of course a minority that think they're going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, there's some fans that are like, well, why don't we sign LeBron James? It's like, well, that's doesn't make sense, buddy.
Yeah.
But I think Dallas Cowboys fans are right to be hurt. Well, they're they're a kick dog, but
and you know this with Jerry Jones running the roost over there. What is your max potential? I mean, winning a playoff game. That's what it's been since I just played that trailer 30 years.
And the documentary obviously is going to be a sticking point for Cowboys fans. It'd be like if
it's a soap opera, 35 days.
It'd be like if The Last Dance had been about Jerry Reinsdorf.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you owned the team, but what about the last 20 years, Jerry? And their names are both Jerry, but it feels like the worst possible time for this documentary to be coming out, and that is very Dallas Cowboys. But I think on the football field in 2025, the last time we saw Dak Prescott play a full season, he was second in MVP voting. I know he laid the biggest egg possible. It was an ostrich egg in the playoffs against Green Bay. But I think Dak Prescott is I am a Rockets fan. I've seen James Harden. James Harden in the regular season was awesome. I know what it's like when you get to the playoffs, but I think Dak Prescott adds a floor to any NFL team. And adding George Pickens to that, I think they'll win 8-9 games.
Take the over. I'm with it.
I think they could be a winning football team this year.
Yeah,
it's a tough schedule. Obviously, your division's only getting better. You have some tough road games here. I mean, you go to Detroit. I think, Las Vegas isn't going to be great, but you have to go there. Yeah, all the teams that they play are bad or on the road.
You got New York twice, right? I mean, you got New York twice. You get Vegas on the road, Arizona, Carolina, New York, Chicago. I mean, some of those games you think they'd win. They got a more talent than a lot of those teams I just listed off.
It is funny that, like, look at their home schedule and their away schedule. It's like, okay, who are the bad teams? Chicago, the Jets, the Panthers, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. And the Raiders. Those are the 4 worst teams you play. They're all on the road. So it's like you're going to have to win some road games in the NFL if you want to make the playoffs, but it's just not the most favorable schedule for a third-place Dallas Cowboys team.
And that's the expectations. I think your expectation should be, I think if you're a Cowboys fan, you're realistic. Your ceiling is hopefully you can sneak into a wild card game. I think that's about as high as it can go, but I take the over. I think this team's going to win close to 8 to 9 games. 7.5 is that total.